We have a legal panel with us, honey, to cut through the noise. Glenn Kirshner is here. He's a former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. And David Corn is also with us. He is the Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones. Welcome, welcome to you both. Okay, Glenn, I want to start with you because one of the key challenges for the committee and frankly for the Justice Department, if it pursues a criminal case against Trump, would in fact be proving that he knew his claims about the 2020 election were false. We know that Donald Trump is already laying the groundwork to make it hard to prove intent. He's got this 12-page statement that I won't even go into, but he blasts the committee and he again repeats his election fraud fantasies. Can you explain to folks at home why intent is important and if you think the committee has addressed that?
You know, Simone, intent is clearly important to prove because you need to prove that somebody not only engaged in a criminal act, but they didn't engage in it mistakenly or by accident, that it was accompanied by corrupt intent. But I'll tell you, no defendant I ever prosecuted in 30 years announced, I'm engaging in a criminal act and I also happen to have criminal intent. That's not the way any of this works. And there's so much evidence from which a jury could infer, that's how you prove intent, infer Donald Trump's corrupt intent. I mean, just look at a few of the data points that we have seen both in the public reporting and now courtesy of the J6 public hearings. We know Donald Trump recruited the insurrectionists. He said, stand back and stand by, await my further orders. He set the date for the Capitol attack. January 6th will be wild. He launched the Capitol attack by ginning up his angry mob and setting them on the Capitol, saying, get down there, fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. Stop the certification. He used the word steal. Everybody knew, including him, there was no steal, which helps provide more evidence of his corrupt intent. He then sat there for 3 hours and refused to call off his attack and refused to send reinforcements to protect the people at the Capitol, saying instead, maybe they're right, maybe Mike Pence should be hanged. Simone, this does not involve subtle or nuanced questions of criminal intent. It just doesn't. Donald Trump committed crimes, and he needs to be held accountable.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people out there would agree with you, Glenn. David, let me bring you to this conversation because this question of if the former president is held accountable really does rest with the Justice Department. But as I said at the top of the show, I think that the committee's work matters even if Donald Trump is not indicted. Can you talk about the importance behind what we're seeing go down on Capitol Hill with or without an indictment?
Sure. And as a historian, as well as a journalist, I appreciated your remarks, because one thing that needs to happen is that the truth needs to be served. There was a mistake made during the Russia scandal where a lot of people thought that Robert Mueller would do everything, right? Just wait for the Mueller report, wait for Mueller to testify. Well, actually, it was Mueller's job, as Glenn knows, as a special counsel, special prosecutor, to find criminal cases, not to give the American public the full story. That wasn't his job. It wasn't what he was paid to do. He put out a report that covered a lot, but it wasn't the full narrative. And Congress never took up that job. What the J6 committee is doing in this instance is that this is for the public. This is not to decide whether to prosecute Trump or not. At the end of the day, they could recommend prosecution, but they don't have to do it one way or the other. They are serving the truth. They're putting out information there. That's why Merrick Garland is watching. And that's why we know more now than we did before, and we're seeing the faces. We're going to see Brad Raffensperger testify about this an amazing event. The President of the United States calling up and saying, I need you to find 780 votes, just one more than he needed to win, right? Now, to me, that you can infer intent, to go back to what Glenn said, from that. He wasn't saying, please take a look. I think there was a problem here. Let's get to the bottom of this. He was saying, find me the exact number of votes I need by hook or by crook, or you might be in trouble, is what he added too. That seems corrupt at its core. But nevertheless, I do think there's a lot of complexity to bring a case against Donald Trump. And you have to wonder, if the case was brought and he managed to be acquitted, just takes one on a jury, what that would mean for our political discourse.
I I want you all to listen to Congressman Jamie Raskin. In this sound, he's talking about Trump's ongoing lack of remorse in the time since the insurrection. Take a listen.
Yeah, he's essentially saying, yeah, I did it and I'll do it again, which is what we have been contending all along, that if you allow impunity for attempts at unconstitutional seizures of power, which is what a coup is, then you're inviting it again in the future.
I have been saying all along that Donald Trump has never done anything in secret. You know, he has been doing this right before our eyes. He has always shown us who he is. Why, and first to you, Glenn, and then David, you'll have the last word on this. Why has it taken so long for us to essentially care about it?
You know, I think we've cared for a very long time. It's taken a long time to get to the point of where we now have public hearings, and we're getting to see and assess the evidence for ourselves with our own eyes. And, you know, I do think Representative Raskin is spot on. I think in the recent speech that Donald Trump gave in Tennessee, not only does he not show remorse, but he was mocking Mike Pence, calling him names like a conveyor belt and a robot for just mindlessly certifying the election's results. Mind you, in accordance with the law and the Constitution. And Simone, at the bottom of it all, if the Department of Justice declines to prosecute Donald Trump for these crimes, what they are doing is giving permission to whoever the Republican nominee is in 2024 to do it all over again and then some, because they will be endorsing this conduct as not criminal, not punishable. And I don't think our Republicans survive another 4 years of what we've just been through.
David, quickly to you, last word on this.
You know, I agree with Glenn. I do think the main problem here is not what the Justice Department does or doesn't do. That's something, of course, that's significant, but that tens of millions of Americans buy Donald Trump's con, and they're still with him. The J6 committee is not about changing people's minds, at least on that side of the aisle. And we are such a divided country that even when the president sits back and does nothing while the Capitol is being assaulted, which, you know, is happening in front of everybody's eyes, it's still not enough to turn off those tens of millions of Trump supporters. So we're in a pretty deep hole here in terms of our political culture. The J6 committee, you know, is scratching at the surface, getting us out a little bit, but there's a long way to go.
Glenn Kirshner, David Corn, my thanks to you both.